It's May 9th, 2017. Seconds remain in overtime of Game 5 between the San Antonio Spurs and the visiting Houston Rockets, who are tied 2-2 in a best-of-7 Western Conference semifinal. Houston has the ball and they need a three-pointer to force another OT. With a stop, San Antonio can protect home court and take a series lead. As the floor clears for the final shot, let's revisit the recent history of these teams. They're neighbors, but not quite rivals for a variety of reasons. And let's meet these two guys, who have more in common than you may recall. Let's rewind. So here's something that surprised me. We haven't seen these two teams battle in the playoffs in a long time. The Spurs have been playoff fixtures since the late 1990s, when lottery luck gifted them Tim Duncan. Duncan twinned with incumbent tower David Robinson to bring San Antonio its first NBA title in 1999, first of a bunch. Throughout a near 2-decade stretch of contention, numerous Spur playoff runs have collided with their Texan neighbor in Dallas, Dirk Nowitzki and the Mavericks. The third vertex of the NBA's so-called Texas Triangle has been kinda sidelined. Houston hasn't faced the Spurs in a playoff series since 1995, back when the Rockets were the team to beat. It took decades for these should-be rivals 200 miles apart to finally do playoff battle again. Why? Well, around when the Spurs dynasty took form, the Rockets had some crappy transitional years. However, they used their own lottery luck in 2002 to draft Yao Ming, one of the most captivating young talents the NBA has ever seen. A couple years later, Houston traded to acquire the league's top scorer, 25-year-old maestro Tracy McGrady. With this blooming tandem, a cool supporting cast, and young coach Jeff Van Gundy, it seemed like the sky was the limit. Those Rockets previewed a potential Spurs rivalry with a stunning, legendary comeback. McGrady's December 2004 outburst of 13 points in 33 seconds. But that Rockets season ended with a blown lead and first-round loss against Dallas, and then things got worse. Beginning in the 05-06 season, T-Mac developed back issues, then trouble with his shoulder and knee. Yao's foot required surgery. The two Rockets stars scarcely enjoyed full health at the same time. Because of injuries, Yao and McGrady only played one more playoff series together, another blown first-round lead in 2007. Consultant-turned-executive Daryl Morey took over Houston's basketball ops immediately thereafter, fired Van Gundy, then reshaped the Rockets into sort of a front office nerd paradise of constant tweaks and asset hoarding. The Rockets traded McGrady and watched Yao retire young because of foot injuries. After 5 years of tinkering, they'd settled into mediocrity without a clear centerpiece of the future. To get Houston back into contention, Morey would have to empty his treasure chest, make a big play for a big star. But it would have to be a perfect opportunity. Someone special. Someone like this guy with the ball. James Harden wasn't necessarily going to be the kind of player you build your whole team around. Harden was for sure the guy on his Arizona State squad. A big left-handed guard with an accurate outside shot, sharp passing vision, and a mastery of pace that vexed defenders and drew a ton of fouls. In the 2009 draft, Harden went third to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Take a sec to absorb this draft board. There's so much going on here. Anyway, the Thunder had an unusually crystal core for a bad team recently pilfered from another city. OKC had already seen enough from youngsters Jeff Green, Kevin Durant, and Russell Westbrook to build lineups around that potent trio. With a full complement of ball-dominant scorers, Thunder coach Scott Brooks leaned more on defensive wing Thabo Sefolosha than on the new guy, Harden. James came off the bench as a rookie, and beyond. Over 3 seasons, Harden's minutes increased, his numbers improved, and his beard grew ever fuzzier, but he remained OKC's sixth man. Sixth man of the year, that is, in 2012. And it worked. The Thunder went from playoff participant to contender to 2012 Western Conference champs. But right after OKC lost to Miami in that year's NBA Finals, they reached that unavoidable fork in the road for good young teams. Rookie contracts don't last forever. GM Sam Presti had already given Westbrook a maximum salary extension, and he signed Harden's draft classmate, Serge Ibaka, to a big extension of his own. This had ramifications. Later that offseason, when OKC offered to extend Harden's contract, they couldn't afford his max salary allowable under the CBA. Harden felt he'd already sacrificed status for the Thunder. He wasn't going to also sacrifice millions of dollars, so he requested a trade. At the exact moment, this franchise, full of tradable people and picks, felt ready to make moves. Daryl Morey's Rockets got their centerpiece. Harden got his max contract and the opportunity to be the star on an NBA team. The guard instantly transformed the Rockets, coached by Kevin McHale, into the league's fastest-paced team thanks to an elite, trigger-happy offense. And the Rockets have made Harden's own dreams reality. The big salary, of course, but also recognition among the elite. Upon arrival, Harden instantly became an all-star and one of the league's top scorers. He has since earned All-NBA status and MVP consideration. Don't laugh, that kid's an award voter. Here in year 5 as a Rocket, Harden is more centerpiece than ever. McHale tried traditional lineups with Harden off the ball. Houston tried pairing Harden with an interior-dwelling co-star, Dwight Howard. Those guys are gone this season. Mike D'Antoni is coach, and true to form, D'Antoni's been happy to let everything run through his star shooting guard / point guard / positions don't matter here. Harden creates constantly for himself and his teammates, who are basically all authorized to catch and shoot every available three-pointer. That goes for everyone on the floor right now, including the de facto center, Ryan Anderson. No team before this year had ever attempted 3,000 threes in a season. The Rockets obliterated that number. And Harden shot or fed so many of those threes. Along with a career-high 29 points per game this season, Harden led the league in assists. He'd be clear MVP if not for his old pals in OKC breaking up, leaving lone remnant Russell Westbrook on an even more extreme solo mission. Houston rolled in a first-round series against those very Thunder, and they rolled in Game 1 at San Antonio. But Games 2 and 3 of this series showed us how things can go wrong. In Game 2, Harden shot miserably, and Houston lost. In Game 3, most everyone else shot miserably, and Houston lost. The Rockets got back on track in Game 4, but backup big man Nene suffered a season-ending injury, only increasing Harden's burden for Game 5 tonight. Leading a 7-man rotation, Harden has not only scored and assisted more than any 2 of his teammates combined, he's also had to defend bigger players. James would never admit it, but he is running on fumes. Now in his 43rd minute of action tonight, Harden has hit a bit of a wall in terms of offensive efficiency. Still, this endgame obviously belongs to him. It's tough to be the guy, but this is the life James Harden chose back in 2012. No star-caliber player would just accept coming off the bench for a stacked team, right? Well, look who's on defense right now. It's Manu Ginobili. Ginobili's background differs from Harden's. He was a mostly unknown, late second-round pick from Argentina in 1999, and the Spurs stashed him in Europe for 3 seasons before signing him. But stylistically, Ginobili profiled as a big, left-handed guard with an accurate outside shot, sharp passing vision, and a mastery of pace that vexed defenders and drew a ton of fouls. Sound familiar? Yeah. There's a reason people, including James himself, compared a young Harden to Ginobili. And the similarities continue. When 25-year-old Manu joined the Spurs back in 2002, they already had a core in place. After winning one ring, the Twin Towers of Duncan and Robinson gained the company of young point guard Tony Parker. Stephen Jackson was coming into his own as a tertiary scorer. Coach Greg Popovich's lineup had what it needed, so Ginobili came off the bench, and it worked. The Spurs won their second title Manu's rookie year. Over the next few seasons, Ginobili advanced into a starting role. Between that Spurs progress and his brilliant performance for Argentina's 2004 Olympic gold medal team, Manu presented as a star. He could lead a team in scoring. He could hit the big shot. He could create offense, provoke mayhem on defense. Ginobili made his first All-Star team in 04-05 as part of a new Big Three that led San Antonio to another title. But as time passed, and as the Spurs fell short of repeating in 06, Popovich and the Spurs coaching staff came to believe Ginobili was better suited for his old bench role. That way he could play his full-throttle, ball-handling style without stepping on toes and without burning out. In the middle of the 06-07 season, Popovich approached a recent All-Star in his prime and basically said, "Hey, we want to demote you," fully ready to get rejected. But Manu said yes, surrendering his starting spot to Brent Barry and later Michael Finley. Ginobili has put ego aside and played off the bench almost every season since. In 07-08, he won the Sixth Man Award. Popovich joked that Ginobili wanted to stick that trophy up his coach's ass. Manu's only recent season starting the majority of San Antonio's games was 2011, and sure enough, he became an All-Star again. Ginobili is not and was not James Harden, but he absolutely could have chosen a bigger role elsewhere, made much more money, and enjoyed much more recognition. Instead, he stuck around. Manu came off the bench to help San Antonio win one more ring in 2014, a crowning achievement for the aging Big Three and a breakout MVP performance for young monster-in-training Kawhi Leonard. 3 years later, 39-year-old Manu's still in San Antonio. But, where's everyone else I just mentioned? Well, Duncan retired in 2016. Tony Parker is still a Spur, but ruptured his quad in Game 2 of this series. We're not going to see him again soon. Leonard has become San Antonio's two-way star and leading scorer, but he had to take a seat after tweaking his ankle tonight. Pop is still here. There's a familiar face. Hey, buddy. And a couple other key parts of the 2014 champions remain. Here is Patty Mills, whose bucket at the end of regulation just missed beating the buzzer. But they've waved it off. Here is Danny Green, who's hit some huge shots in the last minute, but also missed a free throw to leave this a one-possession game. There are newer faces here too, including big names, LaMarcus Aldridge and Pau Gasol. Pau is on the bench though, and this right here is a very Spursy player, Jonathan Simmons. The once undrafted gem has defended Harden a lot tonight. He drew a huge charge near the end of regulation. Among all those guys, guess who's played 31 minutes tonight, surpassing his total for any game so far this season? Guess whose huge layup sent this game to OT? Guess who's been chief table setter for big shots in these last couple minutes? Guess who threw down a huge right-handed dunk out of nowhere? It's Manu! The NBA's second oldest player has emptied the tank tonight in a vintage performance. And now, Manu's switching on to James Harden. The guy who took his style of play to a whole new level needs one bucket to carry his team into double OT. Let's see if James can do it, or if Manu can manage a stop. Welcome to a moment in history.
Ginobili's on him. He's got, what a play by Ginobili! Knocked it away! San Antonio wins in overtime.
Thank you so much for watching Rewinder. there is a lot more where that came from, so check it out. And don't forget to like and subscribe.